Today on The Grave Talks, Reflection of Spirits, a conversation with Sean Daniel. Growing up as a child in a military family in Guam, Sean Daniel's playground was a jungle, literally a jungle, filled with far more than just exotic plants and animals. Downed airplane wreckage, strained caves, and even the spirits of soldiers who passed away at war. This began a journey for Sean into the paranormal that he still travels to this day.
70s, Guam at the time was untouched. The jungles were untouched, and there was a lot of unexploded ordnance and things like that. And us kids, there's nothing to do on Guam, as 10, 11-year-olds. So we would chop through the boonies, and we came across this, it's an old F-4U Corsair airplane. It's all been stripped, the guns have been cut out of it, everything. And we walked around it, and we were walking back. There's three of us. We're walking back out, and my buddy turns around and says, "Sean, look." And it's a full-bodied Japanese soldier in the old flight suit right behind the airplane. And we froze, and then we started running. We looked back again. He looked at us and faded away. And that's not the first time on Guam we had seen things like that. We've seen a white lady, like in a white sheet, like a white ghostly thing. They called her the White Lady. We'd seen that on the other side of the jungle. So, yeah, Guam is, at the time, they told us there's things out there, watch for ordnance. Well, we got more than ordnance. We got some stuff that we weren't, planning on getting. So that's kind of how that started. And then as I got older.
Yeah. And I want to hear about it as you got older, but as you had that experience, as you saw this apparition, what's going through your mind at the time? Did you believe in ghosts at that moment, or what was, how you're processing this?
Well, that's my first time, except for watching it fade away. Well, we know that this guy, the war's over. The war's been over. So we knew at that time, that's when it hit me. That's the first time I'd had an experience that I was like, I've never really thought about ghosts, growing, I'm only 10 or 11.
Sure.
That was the time. That's what we saw, and it went away. And then we saw, a few months later, we see this white this shadow lady thing. And then we knew, and then my mind's spinning. And that's how it all started.
When you had the experience and you see this thing and there's no other explanation for you other than ghost, do you go and tell your parents? Do you go and share this information with anyone?
We did, and I remember talking to my mom. And you know how parents can be. Well, I'm sure it was something. They at the time, I think my mom, mom and dad were skeptical. And of course, I brought it up, and say, hey, we all kind of ran to the house, kind of winded, and hey, this is what we saw, and they were like, oh yeah, well, I'm sure, yeah, sure, son, so
yeah,
not much feedback from them, but
just kind of that dismissive. Oh, and the thing is, as a parent, when you look at that now, it's like, I get it. It's like you don't want to, stoke the fear. If there would be any, but at the same time, you don't want to dismiss your kid. But unfortunately, quite often it ends up coming across as just dismissive when I think sometimes parents are trying to be calming. Did you ever have the conversation later in life with your parents about that, of just how real it was?
Actually, I have, because, my mom passed away a few years ago. And at the time I started, just now 10 years now, 11 years I've been ghost hunting. And I showed her some of the stuff on my phone, stuff that I've captured, scratches, things like that. And she's like, son, that is unbelievable. But she believed me then. And then we had talked about Guam and everything. She goes, I had no idea. She goes, I think you're a little crazy for doing this. I said, Mom, it's my passion. It's what I do. And she done passed away and everything. But that's what, and that's what led me up to now. And my wife's a crime scene investigator. And she goes out on some grisly stuff. I come off a week long of ghost hunting. And it's not surprising for a book to fly off the shelf, millimeter going off, K2 going off, dogs running down the stairs. So it's pretty much my life now.
Sure. When you were having those experiences growing up and you had those kind of, back-to-back experiences of seeing those things out in the jungles in Guam, What was the atmosphere like? What was life like with the other kids? Was it very much kind of an accepted thing? I know you said, there's rumors. When you're at that age, there's going to be rumors no matter where you are on the planet, I think, as far as children saying, down there's this ghost story, there's legends, there's lore. But obviously you saw and experienced something firsthand. But what was the culture like there? Was it very much something different than the U.S. where it's just accepted, it's a part of life, it's as real as the clouds in the sky are? Or was it more of a hush-hush thing as it has been in our country for quite some time?
Like time, if you're talking about like our experience, walking out to the airplane, very hot, nothing that we were expecting. And when we saw what we saw, and our teacher, we went back to our teacher. I remember his name, Mr. Yamashigi. He was telling us about the haunted jungles. This is after the fact.
Yeah.
And this is what made it more real. He was telling us that he's seen things also, talking about his Japanese folklore and things like that. And we told him we saw a Japanese soldier. We saw it because we could tell by looking at him. We can tell by his flight suit. We described how different their flight suits are.
Yeah.
He says, absolutely. And then, and about a year before we left Guam, we were going back out there. We started looking. We were like, of course, we never seen that again. But the culture on Guam at that time it seemed to me, just started getting around the local kids, around the Navy kids and all that. Started kind of firing up when I left the island.
Yeah.
And then as I watched things, the jungles and things like that. Guam was starting to seem as the kids go, it was starting to get kind of active.
So Mr. Yamashigi was the one who really kind of helped you validate it as an adult, to have that grown-up voice going, I believe it, kids. I know it's out there, whether mom and dad believe or not. It's out there. Is it? I mean, obviously, someone in a flight suit. Our assumption is this is a ghost of war. This is someone who had perished out there. Was that kind of the main thought of who's out there in the jungle as far as haunting it at the time? As it being soldiers who had perished, or was there other things known to be out in the jungles?
It's wild because we're looking at an old Navy airplane, and why would a Japanese soldier? He was staring at the tail section, and did he shoot this plane down? Did he die in the jungle? Did he? There's so many unanswered questions. I don't know why wasn't an American pilot there? That maybe who knows? But it was clear. You could see his face. He was Japanese, and I even Googled old Japanese aviator uniforms. Why was he there? Why was he behind, staring at the airplane?
Yeah.
Slowly looked over at us, and we're running, and he fades away.
Sure.
And I don't know, but I vividly remember it. And my buddies, everybody saw what we saw. And I don't know. It's just really bizarre. But Guam, the war, there was Japanese, Americans. There were ships out there, planes shot down. So.
Yeah. I mean, just lots of tragedy, lots of death, lots of lives ended very suddenly. So it makes sense that would be out there. I mean, talk about one of the ultimate finds in the woods as a child growing up. I got excited if I found a tree stump that was shaped weirdly.
Yeah.
But you had an airplane and a ghost, which is extremely interesting to hear about. As you got older, and as you got closer to the world of interest in paranormal investigation, as that became more of a thing, did you have other experiences between the experience in Guam and actually getting into investigating?
No. I started watching the shows, some of the earlier TAP shows, things like that, and then more and more paranormal shows started coming out. And then I said, you know what? Got me a K2 meter, got me some cameras. Then I started building more cameras, more stuff, and it started going out on my own. And that's what I've done ever since. There is a little bit of a gap from Guam, coming back to as a teenager. There was a gap to where I was doing nothing until the shows really started coming on.
Sure.
And that's what, everybody started ghost hunting. It's a fever. It's really a fever now, but, and that's what I started. And then I started picking up things. I started getting voices. I mean, real voices, not even editable, crystal clear.
Was it
then things just started happening.
Was it right away that you started getting things?
As a matter of fact, there's a hospital here in Pensacola, the old Sacred Heart Hospital. It's 110 years old. They have a pizza place in there. So every time it's a joke between me and my wife, we go there, we order pie. I go, I need to run to the hallway for a minute. And it's creepy. You can still see the gurney marks in there. Took my voice recorder out there, asked 4 questions, got 4 answers right off the bat. Came back, put them in my computer, and uploaded them. It didn't have to edit them. Crystal clear. But the guy, the owner of the hospital, he doesn't want any teams there. I've already talked to him. But as I started doing more of this, started snapping photos, started going to haunted hospitals, started doing other things, more and more evidence started coming in. And now it's just, next week I'm going to be heading out again. But now I've got 8 cameras. Now I've got voice recorders. Now I've got, it's grown. It's just grown.
Sure. When you set out and you're looking for areas that are going to have paranormal activity, is it places like hospitals and things like that tend to be more active than others, or could it really be anywhere? Are there hospitals that are not haunted, I guess? In terms of volume of activity that would be in one given place at one given time.
I would say any hospital, most of your haunted hospitals had hydroshock therapy and bath therapy and lobotomies and pain and St. Albans. I went with the Ghost Hunt weekend. They do their, they have all the crew, from the Ghost Tennessee Raid Chasers. They show up, and I showed up there. They had a cool little thing going. We did a walkthrough, and you can feel you can feel the coldness of the hospital. You can feel you can almost feel the sorrow. It's just sad. Mm-hmm. And I took a picture just doing the walkthrough. I took a picture, and it's probably the best picture I've ever taken. It was full spectrum. It was daylight, a little bit daylight filtering through. It was a family. There's a woman, looks like peeking through the doorway, with her child wrapped around the waist, looking back. You can see his eyebrows and another face peering from the other side of the door. And this picture went nuts. I sent it to everybody. Who are these people? Who is this family back here? And that's probably the best picture I've ever taken. But I got creepy EVPs. And I'm not a big orb fan. There's a whole controversy with orbs, but an intelligent orb that flies into frame and kind of floats for a second and kind of zips around.
Yeah.
Saw a lot of that. One zip past my recorder, and I got creepy EVPs, shadows. You can just feel the cold, like behind you. You can feel it's 20 degrees cooler. Something just went by me, and you can feel it. But yes, haunted hospitals, prisons, I think have the deepest sorrow and the deepest. People were neglected. People were abused, and they, I think, are stuck in that time loop, and either want to be heard or is going to let you know they're there.
How often do you think it is when we're talking about a haunted hospital that the activity is some sort of residual activity because of the sorrow, because of the pain, because of the emotional trauma that someone is going through? The image that you saw of a woman and a child wrapped around their leg, that almost to me feels like it would be, a mother and a child witnessing or just finding out the news of a loved one that has passed, and just tremendous sorrow and them being connected. So how is that? Do you believe in that specific incident, like a conscious spirit that is there, that is still hanging out? Because they probably were not the ones that died at that moment in that hospital. Or is that more of the imprint of that emotional trauma that they experienced at that second, and it's somehow there? It's an element in the world that somehow replays itself at the right time.
I think, looking at that picture and the feedback that I got from it, they think that it's possibly Indian. They think that is a feather coming off the head, and the child appears, and from what people have emailed me in social media, say that is an Indian blanket wrapped around that child. Now, I did read up on St. Albans. They said as they were laying the groundwork, there was a lot of bloody battles with the Indians.
Okay.
I can't verify that. I did read that on a couple of places. I don't know. I'm still researching that.
Sure.
But they're leaning more towards this is an Indian family that was either displaced or somehow tied into that hospital. But you can see right through them. You can see the shadow. You can see the light behind them. So, but they do say that that child looks Indian. It's an Indian little blanket wrapped around him.
So it might not even be.
It's hard to tell.
Yeah, it might not even be anything that is necessarily even connected to the hospital itself or the events that happened in the structure, but more so the land prior to the structure being built.
Yes, that's that. Yep, I agree.
When we're talking about haunted hospitals, places that, for example, we, for the most part, don't spend a ton of time in. If you're in the hospital, I mean, sometimes, yes, a small percentage of us stay in there for quite some time in recovery. But quite often, hospital visits are not super extended. Most of life is going to be spent somewhere else. And if you were to pass in a hospital, why would you still continue to haunt that area? It's almost the same argument of cemeteries being uberly haunted or not at all. Again, areas that most of us, well, other than us who are interested in this stuff, don't tend to spend a lot of time at. This is just an opinion question. Why do you think it is that areas like that would not necessarily have spent a lot of time in life are then frequented in death by an entity, and that can run into the world of conscious entity versus residual entity?
The best thing I can say is maybe they don't know to move on, or maybe the ones that experienced pain there, they experienced the torture there, are stuck there, as to where a person had died in an emergency room. Maybe they're still. They don't know where to go. That could be maybe a religious thing. I don't know. Maybe they're stuck there. But I've talked to people when I go to certain hospitals, or even a regular hospital, or I go to places and I say, hey, in this part of this place right here is where people die at the 6th floor. This is where all the terminal. Have you seen? And I just ask them this when I'm walking through, or I'm checking. I'm seeing a relative or a friend in the hospital. Yeah. I go ask them. I said, hey, have you seen things? She said, all the time. And I'm not. She goes, and the nurse said, I'm not into the paranormal things.
Yeah.
But these people die on this floor. This is the critical floor. This is where people are dying of cancer. This is their final stages in life, the 6th floor of our local hospital here. And I just asked, and she said, absolutely. And some people, some people maybe weren't ready to die, and they're hanging on. You hear of people dying suddenly from a heart attack, and they're not ready to leave this earth. And so there's that, and maybe the part where the people are, were stuck in ice baths and stuck in, died that way, died by lobotomies, died by, torture. Their souls could be recorded there, as to where the people that died from natural causes in another hospital may want to leave that place, or may take them a while to leave that place, or letting somebody know they're there, knocking papers off a cart, or something missing, one of the doctor's instruments. And it comes up missing. I said, it's that stethoscope right there. It's gone now. So I think there's a line between extreme things and maybe natural causes.
It's a very interesting kind of rabbit hole to dive down, and I always like hearing others' opinions on it and thoughts based on what they've experienced. When we talk about hospitals, it's one thing when we're talking about an abandoned hospital or something that's been closed down and the structure is still there and there's still things going on. But what about the idea of the active hospital, like you were just talking about? 6th floor, it's where things happen. You talk to a nurse or someone and they're not even into the paranormal, but they will tell you, yes, things happen I cannot explain. The idea of the living being able to haunt their environments while they are still alive, but maybe not necessarily conscious. Maybe they're maybe they're in a coma, maybe they're just, highly sedated and kind of passing in and out. That's been an interesting theme that I've been coming across in the last, I'd probably say 2 years, of individuals who are living, not even all the time necessarily in a hospital setting or anything like that, but their image, their consciousness, if you will, haunting
the living around them. But they're not, when they wake up, they're not waking up saying, I was down the hall haunting Harry in room 7B. Although sometimes I have had stories of that nature, but for the most part, there's no like memory of it. What's your thoughts on that, of just the energy of someone who is out, and their energy playing havoc in a hospital? You would think it could be a perfect setting for such a thing to be going on, with so many people condensed in such a small space that are under heavy sedatives, that are in pain, that are coming in and out. You have I would think a much larger opportunity there for that sort of phenomena to be happening than, say necessarily a prison where people are awake, and they're going about their daily business while it's open.
Thing is possible, and like you said, if the setting is right, and somebody's in a coma, and there's a lot of energy right there, and I think you're correct. If the setting is right, is it rare? I think it's rare. I think it would probably be kind of rare, maybe, to have somebody in a coma to make or somebody like you said coming in and out. But you are dealing with a lot of energy. Yeah. You're dealing with a tremendous amount of energy, especially if you're in a coma. That's a lot of stored energy.
Sure.
So, I think anything is possible. I think it's absolutely possible.
That's what I wonder about is how often are we dealing with truly the dead versus living energy that's out there. But we have for so long just simply assumed that if a book is flying off a shelf or something unexplained is happening that otherwise doesn't have a logical explanation, we would go to ghost, in its most generic of terms, of a spirit of someone dead or angel, demon, whatever it may be. I really am beginning to wonder how much paranormal activity that we have out there, or supernatural activity, is not the dead, but necessarily it's the living that are influencing things without awareness of doing so.
Absolutely. I think it's possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's an interesting road to go down. When you go on a paranormal investigation and you're out there, when you began going on paranormal investigations, I should phrase it that way, when you started doing this seriously as an adult, what initially was your goal?
What I want to do, like for example, the haunted Phineas Hotel. I know. First of all, I'll plot the location.
Yeah.
Okay. I Google this hotel, and I read that it's haunted. Now I can't find anything on YouTube. I can't find anything except one team had gone there before. So I show up at this hotel. It's an hour from here, the Phineas Springs Hotel. It's 100 years old. Nobody has checked in but me. Nobody. And this is great. I got two big bags of gear and a cook from New Orleans. And I had to eat out of a box because this whole COVID thing. So we had to do the restrictions.
Sure.
But later that night, he goes, "All right, man, I'm leaving." And I go, "Where are you going?" He goes, "I'm going home." You got it. This whole hotel? And he goes, "Yeah." "Are you scared?" I go, well, no. So I started setting up cameras and I started doing this. Something crashes in the kitchen. It's like somebody took a pizza pan so loud that I jumped. And not much else happened except when I'm reviewing everything. Mm-hmm. And I sleep with two trail cams on me everywhere I go when I'm staying somewhere. Put two trail cams in the room, and I'm checking them the next day. And I always get nervous when I'm looking to see when you're sleeping. Uh-huh. And several things happen. This orb comes into frame real slow, and sits right over my head, drops straight down on my head enough to wake me up, and it shows me waking up, and I'm looking around. And downstairs, I took a full spectrum picture. I took two. I'm looking and back on my monitor when I'm looking, and it's a full-blown, looks like the Milky Way. It looks like stars, a giant bright ball over the table. The second picture I took, all the stars go to the left. The ball drops a little bit, and I've showed this to hundreds of people. They said it's absolutely amazing. Think you have a portal right there. So I don't know what I'm going to get. 85%, I don't know what I'm get till I get back and I review everything.
Sure.
And it's mind-blowing, the stuff I got from that hotel. But that's what I do. I plot out where I'm going to go, and I don't know what to expect. I don't know what I'm going to get. And that's what I like about paranormal investigating. You never know what you're going to run into.
When you show those videos, for example, to someone, and like you said you've shown it to hundreds of people, and a majority, it sounds like, said, you got something here. There's clearly something here. And I understand that, and I if I saw it, I would be probably very much in agreement with that. Yeah, that's definitely something there. What are some of the ways that you've heard things like that attempted to be debunked?
Sure. I get a lot of feedback, and I try to debunk everything. I'm not,
Sure.
Some of these younger investigators, look at all these orbs.
Everything's a ghost.
You're on a dusty road, dude. You just use your flash.
Yeah.
So, I try to debunk everything with logic. So the first thing I do, we have a big, our neighborhood we live in, we have a big neighborhood Facebook page.
Mm-hmm.
So all the people that don't ghost hunt, some people are into the paranormal that don't ghost hunt, I'll send it out to them. And what I see, matter of fact, I didn't have one person from this thing that came in and woke me up. I had to brighten the whole picture up because you can't see it until you brighten the picture up. Clearly comes into frame and just drops straight down like it wants to, and then it shows me rolling over, waking up.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't get almost anybody, I think, that said that's probably pretty amazing. But I'm very careful what I post on my site or my YouTube channel, because they will eat you alive, and and that's the rough crowd at times too. Plus, you have people faking evidence. You got modern technology. You got people doctoring stuff. So I do a lot of video, probably do more video than I do anything.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm very careful what I post. And so far, some of the stuff that I got is pretty amazing. And it's hard to be doctored.
Sure.
I'm not a big orb fan. It dust, the whole controversy with that. But something that moves in and just floats and kind of stops mid-flight and says, I'm going straight down in this guy's dome right here. Bam. And then I woke up, rolled over, and it's pitch black dark in the room. The trail cam caught it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, what was happening while I was sleeping?
Yeah.
Wow.
That would be troubling, just saying, and what, you wonder, what's its purpose? What is it doing? Is it just trying to get your attention? What, when you look back on that experience there, what sort of conclusions did you personally come to as to what the heck was going on there, or why?
I don't know. It's a 100-year-old hotel, and they said that in that room that I was in, there was rumored two little girls passed away in that room.
Mm-hmm.
So I got a K2 hit. Perfect. I said, is this the little girls? It lit up. Do you have a guardian? It lit up. And I don't know, without doing more digging into this hotel, but that portal with all them lights,
Mm-hmm.
a team had came in before and caught an SLS shadow figure in the same room where I was at. They said it looked like it was 8 foot tall.
Mm-hmm.
They said on the SLS, it's the biggest thing, it looks like stick figures. That's the biggest thing they've ever seen. And only one team had been in before, and they got some things. And of course, when I'm sleeping is when things start to, that's why where you hunt, where you sleep, sometimes that can get kind of crazy.
Sure. Do you think that there's a reason why sometimes you'll get more dramatic things caught on a camera while you're sleeping versus while you're awake? Is there a logic behind that? Is there we don't want to come out while the living are awake? We'd rather, use just be make our appearance while they can't see us or sense us?
It could be. Maybe they're shy.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe my room's dark anyway, and it's really dark when the lights are out. But again, on the other side of the coin, this antique store that I went to, a general filming thing,
Mm-hmm.
like to film things 20% of the time and then hunt 80% of the time.
Yeah.
It turned into this filming event at this antique store turned into a full-blown investigation. The power went out, and the owner said, this power hasn't gone out in 20 years. I'm standing next to a 16th century armoire that's got faces on it carved like that, a haunted mansion.
Mm-hmm.
And when I'm playing back my video, I got EVPs. I got several EVPs. This orb flies straight past my camera out of one of those things. So this is broad daylight.
Mm-hmm.
EVPs and somebody said on my channel, dude, look behind you. That picture is moving. And it was. So I told the owner, I said, he's going to let me come back and do a full set up some cameras and leave them all week.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't think there's any time some of my best stuff has been during the day.
Yeah.
Unintentionally, some of the best evidence.
That wraps up the first part of our conversation with Sean Daniel. In part 2, we're going to ask him, why do objects sometimes have spirits attached to them? Is Sean afraid of bringing home a haunted object? Does Sean believe that mirrors could hold more spirits or ghostly activity than other objects? And does a mirror have to be old to be haunted? And what does Sean hope to have happen with a haunted mirror he plans to bring home? All of that and more in part 2 of our conversation. To hear it, be a supporter of the show. That's what we call a gravekeeper. You sign up to get access to this second half of the interview and all of our part 2 interviews, hundreds of them waiting for you to binge away on. Go to patreon.com/thegravetalks or simply go to our website, thegravetalks.com, and click Become a Gravekeeper. Your support is what keeps us on the air. Until next time, for The Grave Talks, I'm Tony Brueski. Thanks for listening. Welcome to part 2 of our conversation with Sean Daniel about the reflection of spirits. Antique stores are always very intriguing to me. I don't do investigating. I just moderate shows about this topic. And,
I don't blame you.
but that's how I like to be involved. I keep an arm's length distance. But I do like to go and walk around locations that are known to be haunted. I love antique stores. I like taking weird pictures of antiques. I always have my camera out, and then I just usually like to affect them and make them look spooky. But I'm not really at all trying to capture a ghost or something. I hope one day I just by chance happen to find something or get something, but it'll be completely unintentional. What drew you to that specific antique store that you're talking about? Because I'd like to hear more about those experiences there, and what has turned into an investigation.
You got these 2 big gargoyles out front, and I drive it to work. I work out at the base out here. I drive by it every day, and I said, man, I want to go in this place. I've driven by it about 100 times. I want to go in. And I went in, and I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Stuff right out of furniture that just looks so gothic. And then I shot a full video on my YouTube channel, and people were like, dude, that is a 17th century gargoyle chandelier. It's got freaking gargoyles on it.
Yeah.
Who does that?
Yeah.
I mean, so I'm filming that. The whole store is just dead quiet.
Yeah.
And then I talked to the owner, and he said, man, there's stuff from castles. There's stuff from cathedrals. There's stuff from 200-year-old homes from England, all throughout this store. And I said, you know that there's stuff here. I've captured, the voice said, it's a joy, crystal clear. When the power went out, it goes, it's a joy. Right on my camera, right on my audio, right on my just regular filming Canon camera.
Yeah.
And he goes, yeah, but they're my ghosts. So he's got a good sense of humor about it.
Yeah.
But he doesn't seem too alarmed. But the power goes out, and he says, man, there wasn't a cloud in the sky.
Wow.
I said, I don't know. And the other businesses next door all had power. I said, it wasn't me. I promise. I didn't want to get kicked out.
I'm curious. What state is this furniture store or this antique store in?
Florida.
In Florida. Okay.
North Florida. Yeah, I don't want to say the name because I don't want a bunch of people in their bar.
No, I don't want that either. I just wanted to know the state, because you were describing one that is in the state that I live in Arkansas. There's one towards Little Rock, and it's literally, I think, technically the largest furniture antique store in the country. It is, I don't even know how many warehouses. I think like 20 or 30 warehouses on this large patch of land. And it is room after room after room, or really warehouse after warehouse after warehouse of everything from, like you're talking about. There's like a room of chandeliers. There's a room of windows. There's a room of armoires. There's a room of dining sets. And it is everything like you just described, from a house out of the 1960s to a castle in the 1700s in England, or earlier. And it's just the most strange, haunting store I've ever been in. It's cool as heck, but it's super quiet because it is so darn big. So you can have a ton of people there and you'll barely run into anyone. And it is just, it's an amazing feeling. It's very bizarre. So I know exactly what you're talking about. And I'd love to walk around there and take some photos again. I didn't have my camera on me at the time when I was there a couple years back. But when we're talking about haunted objects and things of that nature, what's your thoughts on that? Why or what is attached to, for example, a haunted armoire or whatever the piece may be when it is an object?
I don't know. I don't know how something can physically attach itself. I like to think of it more as it's writing on it. It's with it. I don't know how something can physically attach it, but some of this furniture, it just gives me cold chills. And the owner's son said, every time I walk past this armoire, I get chills down my spine. It feels like electricity. I said, me too. I wish I could buy it, but it's out of my price range. But I don't know how something can attach. But I am buying a mirror from that hallway where I got almost all that activity. My wife's not real happy about it because it matches nothing in our house, but it looks like something out of Oculus. But I'm buying it, and I'm going to put it in our little hallway. So she's got a sense of humor. So I'm going to probably pick it up in a couple of weeks.
Wow. Well, I mean, so the fact that you're getting an object, that was going to be kind of my next question here to you about haunted objects. Your comfort level of bringing something like that into your house without knowing a whole lot about it, other than there's some activity from what you've seen in the store. Hard to say that it is necessarily this object or that object, but you're kind of taking a guess somewhat as to what it's attached to. Why would you want to bring that into your house without knowing exactly what it is you're getting?
I think what it is, aside from the paranormal, and I think about that too. We got kind of a modern house, we don't have any, like wood type furniture. Everything's, black or lacquer or whatever. We have kind of a modern type setup.
Sure.
So this mirror upstairs, and I told my wife, I'd like to have something old. I'd like to have something 150, maybe 160 years old hanging on my wall. Could there be something to it? Yes. After I hang it, if things start going nuts, I'll just take it back to him and I'll take the loss. You know what I mean? But it did come out of that hallway where things were flickering. This thing flew by my camera, voices.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's strange pictures of people on the wall, very creepy girls and older ladies in veils, like from a funeral or something on pictures. I said, who are these people? He goes, I don't know. So who knows, but hopefully there's nothing. I just like to have something older, just to have something old in the house, something people walk upstairs and say, hey man, that's really cool. What is that? Oh, that's 17th century. I don't have anything from the 17th century. I'd love to have that gargoyle chandelier.
Sure.
And my grandpa in Texas was going to actually buy it for me. And I said, dude, I have no place to hang it. I can't. I'm in Florida, man. I have to have ceiling fans. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
But I told him I can't get it, man.
Well, the good thing with some of those, they naturally come with cool air. You don't even need the fan. It just suddenly creates cold spots in the house. So it could work out possibly. When we're talking about mirrors specifically, that's obviously an object I'm sure you've heard just as well as I have a gazillion times, that many believe mirrors are an object that can hold more energy or bring something in almost.
I don't know, portal-like. Some would describe it as. Some would just say there's something about the mirror itself that can hold more energy, or your odds go up of it being haunted. Do you subscribe to that? Do you believe that mirrors, more than other objects, could, if you were to have 10 objects in a room that are all of the same time, place, you'd pick the mirror to increase your odds of it being haunted?
I do. And if you look, people that have gone into old buildings and snap pictures off to the side, or snap pictures and they catch a shadow inside the mirror, I think that's the reason. That mirror, they say the eyes are the window to the soul. Well, what is a mirror? I mean, like you said, a portal or something that, who knows? And I've gone to some places, I've snapped pictures inside the mirror, like not wanting to see what I'm catching, especially when you take a picture and something's behind you. And that didn't happen to me. That happened to a friend of mine. He's just snapping pictures in these old mirrors. And I said, well, that's bound to happen in a haunted building or an old place. You start messing with mirrors and it's bound to happen. But absolutely, mirrors can, yes, absolutely.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think mirrors hold that? I mean, we're literally talking about a reflective metal. When we break it all down, why is it that it's an opinion question, but why do you think it is that mirrors seem to have this effect?
Something about that glass, that glass is holding, so maybe holding emotions or holding, it's something to do with the glass. I can't explain it. Not the creepy frame around it, or maybe that has something to do with it. Something about that glass. It's like it knows. It's like in some places you can feel. I watched that movie Oculus, and I didn't even want to ever look in the mirror again. But that it's something. It's got something to do with that glass.
Yeah,
it really does. And this one I'm bringing home, the frame is really cool looking, but it's something about the glass. That glass, I don't know if it holds energy or if it something behind the glass, or what has the glass seen? What has looked in the glass? Who looked in that glass? Serial killer. Who looked in that glass before? Did it retain it? Did it retain the impression in that glass?
Do you think that a mirror would be simply holding, essentially imprints, almost like a book, or more like maybe even a computer, a disc, where here's the data, it's there's a video on a disc, whatever it may be, but that video is not the event. That video is not the person. That picture is not the person. It's not the soul of that person, but it is a replay of something. Do you view mirrors in that way, or do you view mirrors as being something that can hold like something conscious, or be a doorway for something?
Both. Okay. I think one mirror could be that way. One mirror could be the other way. You can look into a mirror, and maybe it has something to do with a portal, or maybe it has something, some kind of mystery like that. And then the other one, like you said, it reflects. So who looked at it before? Does it retain does it retain the image?
Sure.
Does it, I don't know. There's mirrors all over this store, and I wish I knew. They're from all over the world. It could be anything can go with these mirrors.
It's another thing I wonder about is, do mirrors have to be old? Do they have to have a storied history behind them, or just have had a long lifespan somewhere around people, around energy, to be haunted? Or can a mirror that you pick up at Home Goods be just as active as one that comes out of the 17th century?
No, I would say the older the mirror, I think, is going to have a better chance of something happening.
Yeah.
So if you have a 17th century mirror in a castle or a 200-year-old home, and multiple owners have died in this house throughout the years, suicides, anything, natural causes, this mirror has been in that house the whole time. Something has it retained all this? Has it retained the sorrow? It's seen, technically, not really, but it's seen the owners, pass through, see new owners come in, see new owners. Over 200 years, it's had multiple owners.
Yeah.
It's probably had suicides. When you have a house that old, or a castle or someplace like that, it's seen tragedy, it's seen happiness, it's seen sadness. And I think that older mirror has more of a chance of having something, some kind of energy or some kind of residual energy than something you would buy, new or used.
Sure.
It's just more of a chance. I'm not saying it's not possible, but I think that would be a better chance on an older mirror.
I guess what I wonder about somewhat with it is if you were to take that brand new mirror that one bought at Costco into a very haunted location, could that mirror then be used as more of a conduit, almost as just like a tool, as other ghost hunting tools exist, to not to make the object haunted, but to be used by the spirits that are already haunting a location to come through?
Absolutely. That's almost like an experiment I'd want to try.
Yeah.
Take a mirror and maybe bring it to this store, or bring it to some place that's very, very old. There's some old houses around, where I'm at, and there's a house that's over 150 years old here. And I say, hey, I'm just going to bring this mirror while I'm staying the night. That's actually a great idea. Bring a small mirror in where some of these places I'm going to be going.
Yeah.
Bring a mirror in.
I'm curious.
And take that mirror somewhere else. That's a great idea.
Yeah, I'm very curious about that. See, I'm good.
I'll let you know.
I'm good for something, even though I'm not going on investigations. I ask a lot of questions and dig all different places. But so when you bring this mirror home that you're purchasing, honestly, I'm assuming your wife's not in the room. What do you hope happens with the mirror when it's in your house?
It's going to be in the hallway, because there was actually a bigger mirror I was going to buy.
Mm-hmm.
It has these two like dragons or these lions on the top, fighting over something. I mean, who does that? That's just absolutely badass. And it won't fit. It's 3 feet across.
Yeah.
So this little mirror will fit right at the top landing, right on the wall, on the landing wall right there. And they're not happy about it. My teenage daughter's not happy about it. But I said, look, my birthday's coming up, and that's all I said. And I looked at my birthday. Let me just get it. It's something cool. I'm running the risk, especially what I captured in that store. Yes, there's something can happen, but it's no different than me coming off a 1-week ghost hunt. My wife's coming off a crime scene where she's seen some very nasty things.
Sure.
And she's caught things on her camera that I can't even post because it's part of the police department stuff. But she showed me some things that they've taken pictures of at crime scenes. What is this giant bright person right here where this person's vehicle was? A giant, silver, shiny thing. It's no moisture outside. That person, whatever. So my point being is that mirror, I don't think is going to be any less dangerous than what we do. I was processing EVPs a month ago through my speakers, cranked it up. A book fell off the shelf, and my dogs went running, and I went downstairs, and I had 2 deep scratches about 3 inches apart on the back side of my arm. I didn't see it, and my daughter goes, hey, you got some cuts there. And I was like, so no longer do I do EVPs. I do headphones now. I don't play them out loud.
Okay.
But yeah, I think that mirror has just as much chance of something than what her and I do. Maybe 50-50 shot. But if it gets bad, knock on wood, ghost hunting in general, 11 years now, I've just minor scratches have been the worst. But I tell everybody, you run the risk. Everybody runs the risk of something happening, spirit attachment, a pet getting sick, or worse, you getting sick. It's happened. It's happened to investigators. So if this mirror comes in, now I'm kind of having second thoughts now, but I think let's do it. But if I get the mirror and things really start to ramp up, and it's not malicious, if nobody's getting hurt, and I get an EVP, or I get something small letting me know, as long as nobody's getting hurt, cut, or I've got a couple of cats and a puppy now. As long as nobody is getting hurt, if that does happen, and I notice things changing, I'll take it back and just say, hey, man, or I'll give it, or, take it to a thrift store or something. I don't know, but that's a good point.
Let someone else
you always run
accidentally.
that risk.
You're going to leave a little note on the back of it, warning, haunted mirror at the thrift store.
Very sorry. Enjoy.
Sorry you caught this note after you bought it. Yeah. That wraps up the second half of our conversation with Sean Daniel about reflection of spirits. So thank you to him for joining us on today's program. And thank you for supporting the show and keeping us on the air. We could not do this without you. Until next time for the Grave Talks, I'm Tony Brueski. Thanks for listening.